It seems really obvious why solo leveling has blown up in the anime community. The animation, the super cool fights, it's pure hype. However, when you look at it deeper, there's not much there. What makes this stand out among the many generic fantasy battle anime? From the simple story structure, the forgettable side characters, and the extremely overpowered protagonist, this shouldn't work, let alone be as fun and as exciting as it is. So how is solo leveling this good? First, we have to understand what solo leveling is trying to do. While there are some aspects of adventure in the dungeons, politics in the guilds, and mystery in the system, all things we'll be talking about in this video, at its core, it is a power fantasy. Compare this insanely popular anime to the many generic power fantasy shows that get about as much interest as my YouTube videos. Usually, the difference between a good and bad power fantasy is that something else creates the true struggle. Mob Psycho and One Punch Man are extreme examples of this, where the main characters are so incredibly powerful, their battles often mean nothing to them. Saitama is bored, and Mob is dealing with his own insecurities while growing up. Since they are so powerful, fighting enemies isn't part of their struggle. Other issues that simply come from being human are. But while Sung Jin-woo is similarly extremely powerful, especially in Season 2, his main goal up to this point, which is getting an elixir to heal his mom, is only achievable by fighting through monsters in the dungeon that the system brought to him. There are plenty of great anime where fighting is the main struggle, like every popular battle shonen you can imagine. The difference is, the popular battle shonen protagonist can't summon hundreds of soldiers, some of which are on par with the greatest hunters in this world. And all of those spirits are ones he killed. All of this is to say, Sung Jin-woo is by far the most powerful hunter in this world. At least, we aren't given a reason to think otherwise. But while I can cynically say that the main character never loses a fight, and he levels up like a pay-to-win player in a mobile game, watching the show is still super fun. But with how straightforward and battle-focused this show is, with its overpowered protagonist, it's a wonder it's even enjoyable, let alone one of the biggest shows out right now. So what is it about this simple power fantasy anime that makes it better, or at least stand out more, than all the generic power fantasy shows? The answer isn't in the depth of the themes, or even the things that stand out, like the big flashy battles. I believe solo leveling is good because of the small, seemingly insignificant details that you probably don't even consider when thinking about this show. And it's not a specific thing, like subtle foreshadowing, or fantastic world building, that is its true strength. Honestly, there's nothing that's really special about any singular element of this story. What makes it work is all the small things coming together. I mentioned the adventure, politics, and mystery at the beginning of this video, but we'll see through these how the story is simple but effective. The adventure aspect is present throughout the entire show. The monsters pop up in these portals that lead to dungeons, which must be cleared out before they break the containment and start ravaging Earth. Dungeons are about as cliche as fantasy gets, and the dungeon crawls are a huge part of the show. While it doesn't have the intricate D&D style dungeons of Goblin Slayer, there's very little in the realm of disarming traps or finding the correct paths, the monsters always bring something new to each dungeon. Their abilities are interesting and fit with what we know about how this world works. Even though Sung usually overpowers them, he is very cautious to play against their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. And these strategies do help make the fights interesting. Overall, the adventure aspect is mostly a vibe. You never know what will happen when entering a gate, with how unpredictable they are, at least when Sung Jin-woo is around. I enjoy the politics a lot more than most people probably do in this show. The guild's trying to recruit the best talent, along with things like the movie star who uses his awakening as a publicity stunt, adds a lot of depth to the world. But its main purpose is creating red tape and complex political relationships for Sung Jin-woo to do his own thing. I think this is actually a huge reason why this show is so enjoyable. It's so satisfying seeing him ignore success and fame to focus on the goals that are really important. The contrast between him and the newly awakened movie star is a great example of this. But while solo leveling does a lot with the guild politics, how they deal with the commercialization of killing magical beasts, and how Sung reacts to it, it's still not given enough depth or attention to be the main draw of this show. The mystery aspect, however, only benefits from the lack of attention. Information about the system that allows him to level up comes very slowly. We only get small hints about what might be causing all of this. It's obviously based on video games, but I don't think this is literally Tron. The occasional glitches and whatever is happening with Sung's dad is all we know about how this elusive system works. Whatever it is, the mix of sci-fi and fantasy aspects are really cool. The system is definitely some kind of technology, but it's also like a deity. Of course, a lot more has probably been revealed in the manhwa, but I am just covering the anime. While none of these things by themselves really make solo leveling great, putting them together makes a world that feels alive and real. So when we do watch Sung Jin-woo flex on his enemies and gain new abilities, it's so hype. But there's one important thing that these small details do above all else. This is the dumbest thing I've said, but the reason solo leveling works is that you really feel the leveling. Let me explain what I mean. In shonen or superhero shows, one of the biggest things that takes people out of it is when an extremely powerful villain with insane powers gets taken out by the mediocre protagonist because, of course, that is how the story is supposed to go. The story elements of creating tension through making you think the hero is going to fail right before they emerge victorious does work really well, but it can also feel disingenuous. The hero has to struggle here and then has to succeed here because that is what the storytelling rules say should happen, not because it actually makes sense in the world. Solo leveling still does the same thing, but it avoids feeling forced by using it in a more subtle way. You don't often see Sung Jin-woo getting beaten down, but he also doesn't just recklessly slaughter difficult enemies. He is very cautious. Solo leveling feels more like watching a dominant performance in professional sports. It looks easy, and at the end of the day, they won by a lot, but the skills required to do that are still impressive. Because we initially see Sung as the weakest hunter in the world, it's satisfying to watch him grow in power. But this power isn't just an abstract video game idea of more attack and more defense. Although that's definitely part of it, the skills Sung learns become a major part of each fight. But it's not just that it shows how he learns his new abilities. It's also that the skills are consistent in how they work. This consistency is what truly makes solo leveling work, and other similar power fantasy shows fail. Because it's not just consistent with its power system, it's consistent with everything. When we can trust a story to stick to its own rules, then we can get fully bought into it. And if we can buy into how he is winning battles, buy into its adventure, politics, and mystery, then a straightforward power fantasy is really fun. Add the hype, the cold lines from Sung Jin-woo, and the great animation on top of its base of consistency in its smaller aspects, and that's how solo leveling is this good. Thanks so much for watching. I haven't posted a video in a while because I've been working on my Anime Worth Watching channel. Check it out if you want short, concise reviews of seasonal anime. Or subscribe and comment on this video to get me to spend more time making videos like this. That's all from me. Jamyo.